This is the interview of Mickie Baisden Ingram about her time at Bailey School and her memories there. Interview is done by her brother David Baisden. And hello, Mickie.
Hello.
What grades did you attend Bailey School?
Well, I started off in first grade and went all the way through 8th grade. So I was there 8 years.
And so what years were those? When did you start, basically?
1949 to about 1957.
Okay. Do you remember who your teachers were?
Started off with Mrs. Gillespie, and then we had, I'm not sure exactly which years, but I know I had Mr. Beer for a while and Mr. Manley for a while, and Mrs. Vole, and there was another teacher there that I can't remember his name, but I think Mrs. Vole came in and substituted for him after he passed away. He was an older man.
Okay. Who were your classmates?
Well, a lot of them. There's about 24, 25 of us in the school. We had, my closest friends was Brenda Reese and Barbara and Eileen Reed. They were my inner circle, and then there was Dot Reed and Mary Tomey, Marion and Mary Frances Steele. We had the Baileys, the Lances. They were mostly boys, though. But
Jeffries were
it
girls.
was Arnold Jeffries. His children were there. Barbara and Ronnie, I believe. And there's a lot of Baileys, and there's a lot of cousins of the Baileys that were there.
Were Ike and Eric?
The Manleys, Ike and Eric were more closer to my age. And
Riley?
Vince O'Reilly, Lucy Lair, Burton Wilfong was younger, Ron Reese, Hardmans, Hilda, Jim. Several of the Hardmans were there.
Yeah, you had a lot more than we did.
Well, anyway, there was quite a few of us, and we were pretty close.
What games did y'all play back then in recess and things like that?
Ante-over, where you throw the ball over the school, and then you run around, and anyway, that was one of them, and dodgeball.
Okay.
That was a good one. We kill ourselves on that one. And Red Rover. For a while we played touch football.
Huh.
My older brother Rich, of course, liked to play football, and my younger brother Jim liked to play football. I don't think you cared for it too much, you or Charles. But Richard started school there a couple years before me, so he was used to everything up there.
What was just an average day, starting at the beginning, at breakfast all the way back home again?
Get up, eat breakfast, get dressed, walk to school. It took about 20 minutes to walk to school, so I figured it's about a mile up there. Richard and I would be walking up. We'd kind of pick up people as we went sometimes. The Reeds would walk the same route, and the Hardmans. The Reeses and the Baileys were all in our direction. I think the Tomeys came up the other direction. They came up with the Manleys and the Wilfongs, and then Vince O'Reilly and Lucy Lair and Jeffries, all of them were coming from the other direction.
Did y'all have the school bell at that time?
We had the school bell.
Did it actually ring to let you know school was starting or not?
It probably did, but
yeah, by the time I went to school, it was already condemned.
no, I think it was still being used somewhat. I'm not sure how much, but
did y'all do any special events, say for holidays or anything else like that?
Well, the Halloween was a big to do in the fall. Christmas plays was a big to do around Christmas time. All the kids in school had to be in the play. We had a May Day thing in the spring, and then in most of the winter time, we were just trying to keep warm.
Yeah, it was. You only kept warm close to the stove.
Right, and we stayed pretty close to the stove in the wintertime. And we had a pot-bellied stove in the middle of school, and that was our heating for the whole school building. I'm not sure when Mother started cooking there, but it must have been fairly early whenever I was going to school.
Did you always have lunch, or did you have to carry lunch?
Sometimes we would carry lunch, but most of the time we had lunch. And I remember one winter, it was around 49 or 50, we got up and it was snowed so bad that we couldn't get out of the house for like 2 weeks. And we were running out of food. I'm not sure about the neighbors, I'm sure they were too, but that's the time Mother decided I was going to walk with her to the schoolhouse. So I think she was cooking there because she knew there was food at the schoolhouse, and there was 20-foot drifts in between.
I remember the stories about that. Where,
and so she took me along so I wouldn't break through the snow.
Dad, Has, Lewis, and Duck Wagner all walked into town for supplies.
It was a bad winter.
Yeah, they finally had to walk in for supplies.
And whenever the grader finally came out to grade the roads, it was high. It was really high. Even after those several weeks of being snowed in, you would have thought that things would be melting off, but until those graders came out, we couldn't get out of there except by foot.
What memories stand out about Bailey, things that happened there?
I remember I loved grade school, especially the first few grades. Mr. Manley was there, and I remember him having spelling bees, and if you missed the spelling word, you got a spanking. And so I usually didn't miss them, but I did miss one. And I got up there, and he spanked me, and I didn't cry, and he spanked me again, and I'm very stubborn. So I never did cry, and the kids behind me that were waiting in line to be spanked, they kind of went along with it.
Did he use that clapboard with the holes in it?
One of the teachers used one of those with the holes.
Because I remember it hanging on the wall. They never used it.
They used it on one of the Lance boys and broke it.
But it would make a lot of noise. It was two boards that was slapped together against each other.
There was one with the holes in it.
Yeah, and it had holes in it, and it would make so much noise. We always got a ruler, yardstick.
Yeah, but this one boy, he ended up having it broke on his bottom. I think it was Doral Lance that got the broken paddle. Let me see what else I remember. I remember Mr. Beer was our teacher whenever I was in like 5th grade. And we had that hepatitis scare where all the kids had to have those big old shots, that immunoglobulin or whatever. It was a 2 cc of pretty stout medicine. And Mother was cooking them because I remember having to go into the kitchen for my shot. And I was very mad because Mr. Beer did not leave the kitchen while I was getting my shot.
What, they have a nurse come out to do them?
They had it. One of the medical public health nurses came out. We had that, and then they had to chlorinate the water. And Mother drank a whole bunch of Clorox, so she lost taste for a while. I think those are the biggest incidents I remember, except whenever I got to be that everybody's chasing after boys and girls, and all the girls ganged up against me and taunted me all the way home. I kind of got blackballed there for a while.